You ready? All right. I would like to call the regular monthly meeting for the Haymarket Town Council to order for Monday, July 7th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Hassanello,
Present.
Gerson,
Here.
Gallagher,
Here.
Pater,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
DNA.
You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, every time. All right, so being that this is the first meeting of the new fiscal year, I would like to invite Chief of Police Al Seibert to give this evening's invocation.
Yes, ma'am. It's an honor. Thank you, Mayor. Let us bow our heads. Dear gracious and kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time we come together. We thank you for this opportunity to gather and serve our community. And we thank you again for our council members and town employees who dedicate their time to make this community better. We ask that you guide council and provide them with wisdom in making their decisions and deliberating on matters before them. Please guide our thoughts and our discussions so that we might thoroughly understand the issues at hand. Please grant council clarity of thought, open minds, compassionate hearts, and help us all work together with unity and respect to make decisions that reflect you, your will, and serve the best interest of all. We thank you for your presence with us, and we pray for this opportunity to contribute to the well-being of our town. In your dear gracious kind of name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. This brings us to citizens' time. Is there anyone wishing to address the council? Do we have any emails?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We will now consider the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything off the consent agenda? Oh, yes.
May we please pull the police chief report?
Yes.
May we pull the town administration report?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Sure. I'll make a motion. Madam Mayor, Council, I move that the Haymarket Town Council approve consent agenda item V, A 1, 2, B 2, 4, and 5, and C 1 through 5.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, we will move on to the pulled reports. Mary, would you like to ask a question in regards to this, please?
Sure. So if we could please look at, good evening, Chief. I'm doing great. How are you?
Dream, my friend, living the dream.
So I really appreciate these graphs that you have made for us consistently in your tenure here. I want to kind of bring council to some graphs that I was looking at. If everybody could look at page 32 and 33. It looks like the 2025 dispatch calls for services are up in comparison to others. And overall, the combined calls for service are up for 2025. I also want to call out that on the bottom of page 33, the officer initiated calls for service are higher than usual as well. And what I'm hearing is that our officers are really, really working hard. Could you possibly enlighten us as to what kind of calls you're seeing this year, possibly in comparison to the other years that we've been taking this data?
Yes, ma'am. The one thing that we did note last year in our discussions for budget was the simple fact that it wasn't necessarily a larger call volume as a more complex call volume. And of course, I think, you've seen in some of the stuff that reports that I've presented that the complexity of the calls have differed than the usual. The previous year's calls for service would be more of domestic nature or citizen assist or small petty larceny type issues, maybe at our local convenience stores or places like that. And of course, this year we've had the robbery, we've had, the stolen vehicle, we've had other health or issues on the mental health crisis with certain individuals. And so the involvement and the time that it takes to answer the call and then follow up with it has expanded on our officers. And of course, you see the reports as well as everybody else does, is that the complexity is just what brings it to us. And we're doing the things that we need to do to make sure that we stay up to date and prepared for those calls for service, and doing roll call trainings, equipment, and making sure that the officers have the necessary tools and education that they need to handle the higher complexity calls. Of course, all officers go through basic training and they get advanced training as they go along, but the skill set is not often used in some of these areas. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So we try to refresh and make sure that the officers are educated. We also just recently put out our legal updates from this last legislative session to make sure that the officers understand those updates as well. So we're being very proactive in our approach. And I think the proactivity started last year with adding the new positions that we had and being prepared for this. If you would ask me to look at my crystal ball last year and say where we would be at today, I would say no way. But I'm glad that we're prepared for it and that we've done our due diligence in making sure that we can provide the community a good service, not just on the complexity of calls, but in crime prevention and traffic safety.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
I also wanted to ask council to join me on page 36, where it has the grant money used by quarter. And I noticed this second quarter's been down a bit. But when I compared it to the increase in calls for service, it kind of made sense. It looks like to me our officers are busy working for our department and focusing on department hours. Is that why, or was there something else to come up?
That is partially correct.
Okay.
Also, now of course we don't have the last quarter. That quarter ended just 7 days ago.
Okay.
And I haven't assembled all of the numbers. As a matter of fact, timesheets went in today that covers that time period.
Okay.
So I didn't have those numbers to present to this report at the time of putting it in.
Mhm.
But there is one other anomaly with that, and I could break it out later if you wanted me to. But in the first quarter, we did purchase equipment that we had asked for in the grant. So there's the price of the equipment plus the price of
Okay.
the hours worked. So that's an anomaly as well.
Okay.
But I can tell you, without having to look at the numbers specifically yet, which they're setting in a binder ready for me to work on, that our hours were down in this third quarter as well.
Okay.
Keeping in mind that DMV grant and NHTSA runs their quarters a little differently than we do.
Mhm.
So this would actually be our first quarter starting out now, and we would have ended our fourth. We just ended their third. So there's one more quarter in their year ending, which
Okay.
covers July, August, and September.
Okay.
Just so you know. So they're, when I'm talking quarters, I'm not talking about Haymarket quarters. So that anomaly is in there as well. But obviously with, the officers are working a bit more. And then, we did have 2 officers out this last quarter for a little bit of time as well.
Yeah.
So-
Honestly, I just want to thank you for all the hard work that our officers do. I love seeing the traffic volume. It's very clear that we have many, many, many people traveling through our town on a very regular basis. I love that you have captured some of the Jefferson Street data as well. Thank you so much. That's
Yes, ma'am.
huge. I think that will definitely advocate for the pedestrian safety on Jefferson at the very least. So hopefully we have something to stand on to discuss with VDOT a bit stronger. I just want to, again, say thank you guys for working so hard. I mean, this is a very long list of things that you guys have been doing, the things that you plan to do and execute, and you guys are so essential to our town's safety and the sense of community. With that, kind of seeing this, I kind of wanted to put it out there to council to possibly consider maybe these implications of increasing demands on our police department and very visibly how hard they're working, and to ensure that we're creating an environment where they can flourish not only in their job, but also in incorporating the community policing. I think that the council's gonna have to really consider adding more police officers to our department to ensure that the community policing can continue and not go by the wayside. Because again, we discussed in previous sessions how important community policing is to proactive policing. And proactive policing is the best form of policing to prevent crime.
True.
So I would really like council to start considering that. It's very clear that our town is very busy and our department's working very hard. So I want to make sure that we're not letting the community policing piece slip out from under us. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words. I do want to mention on the traffic, I'm going to be moving that sign at the end of this reporting period to capture some data on Fayette. I love that sign there because it does slow everybody down coming into town. And of course, we are concerned with that Longstreet Commons entrance there. So it's been very beneficial. And I did want to capture a good snapshot of our volume there. And I think I have, but I want to finish this reporting period since we're already halfway through it. And then we'll be redeploying that sign to capture some other data as well. But it has been very influential on reducing the speed in that area to where we like it, actually. So just so you know, you will be seeing it moved, but it'll be back. That's what we got it for, was to use it. We're going to keep it in the field as much as possible.
Thank you. Is that everything, Mary?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Matt, you wanted to pull Emily's report?
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
uh,
Sorry, Joe. Yes.
Good evening, Chief.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How are you?
Glad to have you back.
It's good to be back.
So that was a good discussion. Can we talk a little bit about the status of current projects and events?
Yes, sir. Moving down. What would you like to know
Packet
about?
page 41. So can you talk a little bit about the 2 interns that you have on staff for the summer and the good stuff that they're learning and doing?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. One of them is currently in college, and one of them will be going to college. One of them is able to be here a lot during the week, and her name is Piper. She has been helping out a lot also on the town hall side with some of our community stuff that we have coming up, including National Night Out and things like that. She's a college student out of Georgia. The other one will be going to college. She is a local, and she's been coming around when she can. She has a full-time job, a job, which limits her total access. But currently what we've been studying with them is current case law, current case trends. They've also been able to do ride-alongs, attend court proceedings, and we are going to be showing them some crime scene evidence collection, mock-ups here where they can actually get their hands dirty and play around with some of the stuff. And we're going to continue on with that until obviously they leave for their next school year, their next adventure. But they've both been great to work with. They're both wonderful young ladies and provide, they're very forthcoming and provide a lot back to the town.
Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear it. That's giving back to the community. That's a wonderful thing. I really want to say, reading the report, Officer Anderson did some really excellent police work.
Yes.
Related to the Baptist Church and some of the other stuff that our other officers did on the day of the event.
Correct. The interns were actually helping out that day as well. But yeah, that was kind of unexpected, a turn of events there. But we do appreciate the town staff. Being a small department, we utilize everything we can, and the town staff came together, and even Matt, Councilman Gallagher, had some interaction with the people involved in that, and so everything turned out as best as could be. So,
Can we talk a little bit about click it or ticket?
yes, sir.
I see you had some data that you have to submit to the DMV.
Yes, sir.
So what kind of data did you submit?
As part of the DMV grant, when we sign on for the grant, we promise to take part in all of the NHTSA campaigns, drive sober, gets pulled over, click it or ticket, and then any of their specialties that they have come along. And we try to use our message boards, our social media, along with the officers being out there as a deterrent. So what they want to know is what the data that I submitted was total shifts worked during the click it or ticket period, not just overtime periods, but shifts, but regular shifts, overtime shifts, the amount of citations written, the amount of warnings, the type of citations written, and what area that we concentrated on. We also use to support that. We have signage, yard signs. You probably saw them out on the streets that advertise the click it or ticket, which we are able to get those signs from NHTSA for free. We keep them in storage and reuse them every time that we have a click it or ticket campaign. So that's the type of data that we present to them and forward into their system on the Virginia.gov system, which any public can access that as well. But I'll be glad to pull the data up and include it in any future reports or bring it into the next report if you want to see it. We do collect the data sheets so we know what officer worked, what shifts they worked, what hours they worked, which is also included in that. So we were able to track that. And then if we're audited, we have the documentation to support the data that we submitted.
Right. So is it standalone? Does it get aggregated in with the rest of the state and communities, or is it also shown as a state?
No, it's separated down, so you can actually pull Haymarket Stats, or Prince William, or anybody else in the Commonwealth of Virginia that has submitted data for the click it or ticket. Even if you're not part of the DMV grant program, you should submit to the click it or ticket data. But we're mandated as part of being a grant recipient. We're mandated to report that information data. Which they also use in their figures and numbers and things and plans that they want to do in future campaigns. And we also just finished Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over, which was only for the 4th of July weekend. It's just a 4-day snapshot, which we use the message board out by Longstreet Commons to advertise that message as well. But that board is still collecting data, even though it's got a message on it. So we try to we support all those campaigns and do the best we can to make sure that we're getting the message out for NHTSA and DMV.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Good to know. That's good information to know. And again, I just want to say thank you for doing that work on the Lowly grant.
Yes, sir.
Every little bit helps. And also the other grant, the 599 funds
Yes, sir.
that you have in there.
Yes, sir.
My last question relates to the 2025 legal updates.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad we have our attorney here. Just
Me
curious.
too.
I'm just curious, what kind of updates that impact our police department that you want to reference?
Really nothing that was going to throw a major shift out there. Keep in mind, there's a lot of documents to read, and I peruse them. But it is nice that even though the seatbelt law is still a secondary offense, that now it combs the whole inside of the car, not just the driver. So we can deal with the passengers as well. And then there was also another one which I'll be talking about in the future, but just to give you a little preference on, is an assurance that we can enact legislation if we want to as a local community. The state is authorizing us that we can do something for skateboards on the sidewalk or bicycles on the sidewalk, or if something like that becomes a problem. So it's not really an impact to the PD, but it's a good tool to use should council feel the need to use it in the future. So those were the couple of big snapshots that I took away in reading the legislation. As something that we would probably keep in our pocket to use when we need it to. Olan might have something else that he can think about, but off the cuff, that's the gist that I remembered reading about.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chief.
No worries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? All right.
Okay. Emily, I just wanted to kind of reference, first of all, I wanted to thank you for providing us information. I know my colleague, Councilman Ramirez, had brought up last week that we had a resident turned away at the landfill. So I appreciate you getting us all of the information that you did, including the fee schedule. I did a side-by-side comparison, all right? And when you first look at it, it can be a little bit daunting and questioning, as to why we're being charged in Haymarket $5 per vehicle per trip, whereas Prince William County residents, many of whom have 20169 Haymarket addresses as well, don't get charged anything. $45 a ton versus no charge. There's a number of things where I did a side by side. However, I want to make sure one other point though is correct in that I did a little bit of research this past week, and it looks to me, and I wanted to see if this is correct in my understanding, that whereas Prince William County residents who are outside of the local towns, including Haymarket, pay a $75 per home fee as part of their real estate tax, that the town residents, in fact, do not pay this fee as part of their real estate tax. Is that accurate, or do we know that?
So I'm awaiting that feedback. When I reached out to Monica Gorman regarding the trash fees and the access to the landfills, I also reached out to a point of contacts in the tax department asking for a breakdown of the different fees assessed for a Haymarket resident here in the town, and then how those fees are applied and what fees are not assessed. And so I am waiting that response. I'm not sure if that individual was out on vacation last week with the holidays, so I will follow up as it's been a week since I sent that email out, but stay tuned.
Okay.
I've asked the questions and I'm hoping to get the answers soon.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I started doing that because it was kind of one of those things that was gnawing at the back of my mind is when especially when you sent over the comparison, I was
Certainly.
thinking I pay taxes as do our residents.
Yes, and that was a portion of what Councilmember Lorson brought up at our meeting
Yeah.
last week when we started talking about, we have a set couple of fees that are assessed to our residents, but we don't have all of them. And of the ones that are assessed, what do we get for that? So I have started that dialogue, hoping to get a response here soon.
I will stay tuned then. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything? It's just.
Go ahead. No, I'll follow up.
Yes, Emily, thank you. Is there for the RFP for the sidewalk and the VDOT reviewing, is there kind of a estimated time that they will respond to us or give us any final comments?
I hope soon. Right now, it is with the permit land use permit manager, and they are a little bit backlogged. We were to follow up with them this week to ask the timeline. So we are hopeful on that. I will say we also are awaiting a follow-up from the engineering group, who they're the engineers on the project. They had a final punch list to send over from our walk, and we are awaiting that final response to be submitted over to ensure that we've checked all those items off of our punch list.
Okay, I thought that's what my thoughts behind it,
Mhm.
county, so it's probably backed up.
Yeah, we are trying to get that recorded as soon as possible. It's the deed and plat,
Yeah.
and VDOT does have to sign off on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then for the park building, E and S measurements to take hold, grass growth,
Yes.
are we waiting on them or?
So we put down straw, and so what we have to do per our ENS standards is we do have to go back routinely and have it inspected. So our town engineer goes and inspects the site to ensure that the grass is growing. When there's a certain amount of growth and germination of the seed, and the site is stable in the sense that we've had that percentage of grass come in, then we're able to check it off that it has met the ENS standard and that portion is completed. So in the recent rains, we've had a significant amount of growth, but we need to make sure it meets that percentage of total growth.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, to follow up on the landfill update.
Yes.
As you get the information and an understanding of everything, I would like to make sure that we do post that on the webpage, the schedule, and
Absolutely.
so that it is communicated to the citizens.
Absolutely. I am waiting on a final response from Monica regarding Councilmember Pasanello's question, and that was, do these fees also apply to the transfer station? And so I'm getting that clarifying point, and then we'll post everything up. Our goal is to make a standalone website page, post all the information there, and then also link it into our app so that that's an easy to navigate feature and nobody's surprised when they get down to the landfill.
Now, I'm assuming it'll be all inclusive. That'll include every additional fee that Prince William requires for a service to their people. The ones we do pay, the ones we don't pay, so that so will it be all inclusive like that? Some type of matrix that says, hey, there's a bug dusting that costs $11. We do pay that. I know we do pay that. The landfill transfer, I know we don't pay that, as I mentioned last time. Stormwater management, there's a service fee for that. We do not pay that. That's why we're going through the stormwater management issues that we're going through right now. So I know there are other added line items that are thrown into the tax bill that are menu items, pick and choose, right? And I don't know how we've picked and choosed ours over the history of time, but there's some that we do not pay, so we're not getting service for. And it'd be nice to lay that out so that all the citizens understand what they're not being charged for and what the town's responsible for.
So I think what my recommendation would be is phase 1, we do the website because I have that information. Phase 2, when I hear back from my contact in the tax department, maybe what I can do is work with them to come up with more of an infographic style document. So it shows what your real estate tax bill should look like. It'll show the fees assessed, and then it'll have an explanation of what you get in turn for that fee that's assessed. So we can work on something to put it out there, and then we would include that under our finance portion of the website.
Yeah.
And we will aim to have that information as soon as possible, put a push out there of the information, but then also send it out closer to October 5th when we send out our real estate tax bills as well. That'll be a good informational opportunity for us.
Because, yeah, another thing came to mind, fire and rescue, that's another
Yes.
separate line item. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing how many line items there are. But
Right. And I know when I was looking at this last week to kind of draft the questions to ask of the county, when we pull our tax bill that the town gets for the town commercial properties, I'm not sure, and that's what I need clarification on, is what fees are assessed to the commercial properties and what are residential as well. Are they the same? So
okay,
we'll work to get all that information.
yeah. Are you on that topic, or do you want me to continue on?
Oh,
Joe?
no, go right ahead.
Okay. Just because of visibility and no time to put in notes, we did have the stormwater management kickoff on the second. Any good details come from that we can be transparent to the
I think some
citizens on?
great details. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So on July 2nd, I met with the consultant, JMT, and Prince William County, David Maxwell. We had a great kickoff meeting, met for about an hour. We went over the 3 focus areas. The third focus area is a channel behind Haymarket Baptist Church that leads back to I-66. This, when I very first started here 7.5 years ago, this was a touchy point. We did have issues there. There were some resolutions in the area that seemed to have taken care of that, mitigated some of the stormwater problems that we had. So I'm going to follow up with our town engineer, because this is one that she had recommended back in the winter when they initially met. And I'm going to determine if this is still a top priority. If this third area is not a top priority, we're going to be able to reallocate some of that funding into looking at the town's greater stormwater management systems and get a better analysis of what's in place and possibly what they, kind of how they're currently operating. So we talked through those items. I am going to get with them to upload as many of the files as I can in the 2 focus areas. Once they kind of work through those documents, determine what they need, we'll set an office day on site so that they can come out, review additional documents that we only have in hard copy format, and then also start in on the surveying work that they need to do. We are hoping that those documents can be shared before the end of the month, and that we'll start working on it effective immediately. They are going to be preparing an updated timeline. I'll share that as I receive it. Originally, we had talked about this project being finalized within a year of starting it. However, we were not expecting the EPA delay of 6 months, so the timeline will be adjusted accordingly. And then lastly, it was requested for us to meet with them once a month. So we will be meeting once a month just to touch base, make sure everything's continuing forward. So very good discussion. Happy that it's happening. So.
Yep. And you had a follow-up, Joe?
Yeah, with respect to the reallocation,
Yes.
okay, relative to the grant itself,
Mhm.
a scoping grant, is that permissible, do you know? Is that going to be approvable by the EPA?
Yes. So what we had originally had in place was that we have these 3 focus areas. And once those 3 focus areas are completed, any leftover monies was already going to be allocated towards that. This just puts more money in the pot for that.
Thank you.
Okay. No follow-ups for anybody else before I
Yes,
continue on?
do.
Okay. Also mentioned in last meeting, we had 2 real estate issues, the museum status and the old post office of Washington Realty status. I don't think you need to go into full detail, but just want to be transparent of the things that were found out in the sense of, we did notice some condensation because of how we kept the museum. Was there any damage that really needs to be repaired, or is it just adjustments of certain things? Post office, we're definitely inconveniencing the tenants there, so are we compensating for them? Yes and no, just no real details, but something to show we're
Yes.
moving forward.
Yeah, so as mentioned, late June, we had a air conditioning issue at the town museum. It does appear that we've caught it in time to not cause any long-term damage in the space. Ultimately, that came down to a faulty thermostat issue that has since been mitigated, and we are monitoring the space for no further issues. As for the property on site, the old post office building, also during that large heat wave that we had expanding for that week, we had air conditioning issues in that space. We do have a temporary fix in place. We have a window unit and we have one working mini split in the structure. Both are in operation, allowing the space to be utilized by the tenant. I am to follow up with the finance liaisons next week regarding our discussion of rent abatement and the overall plan forward for when the final repair is going to be taking place. And the amount, we did receive an estimate to fix that structure's air conditioning issue. Due to the emergency of the nature of the problem, we did proceed forward in discussion with the mayor and the 2 finance liaisons to approve the expenditure over the $10,000 spending limit. And so that has been approved for $22,000 to fix the air conditioning unit. So I will be keeping finance liaisons up to date on all of the scheduling, rent abatement, timeline, and then we'll come back in the monthly reporting at the work session as well as in the monthly log to keep council apprised.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Is that all you have? Okay,
Yeah.
Joe.
Let's segue right into something else related to that. So when we were talking about the building, we were also talking about condition inventory.
I have a good update for
Very good. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? So
I do.
council is aware of what you're thinking?
you. Yes, so when we had both of these issues arise and we started talking in the finance liaison meeting, it became pretty apparent that we continue to have a couple of these things happen in a cycle every summer when the heat outside is just unbearable and some of our units aren't keeping up. We then further got into conversations regarding the overall kind of structural status of all of our buildings, and that we don't currently have anything concrete done by a structural engineer or other appropriate party to give us a status of what our structures are at. So it was discussed with finance again to hire a structural engineer to work on an evaluation of all the structures that the town of Haymarket owns. So that would be all of the structures on site as well as the town museum. I am in great support of this because it is needed. It's needed for staff and maintenance, but also it's needed for council so that we can all appropriately budget and fund some upcoming projects that we're going to have to evaluate. In that discussion, though, I will say I met with our contractor who we often utilize, Lewis Sublet. This morning, I got some great recommendations from him, and I have a point of contact with our architectural firm to reach out, who does have a team of structural engineers on board as well. So I will be reaching out to get quotes on what that would look like to do all of those evaluations. It would be 5 structures, 3 of which are historic structures.
Infrastructure may not be sexy, but it's very important.
Right here, Joe.
What's that? Yes. And so what I wanted, hopefully you could speak a little bit more about is how establishing the template for all of our assets and some thoughts about doing that so that we can fill that information in by the PEs and the professionals. So there was some talk about engaging some interns or something.
That's correct. So if everybody thinks back to, what was it, late October of 2024, right after Haymarket Day, and recall the conversation with Stephanie Davis when she was here with our strategic plan. She recommended and had resources available to help us begin our asset inventory. I would like to go ahead and engage with her to get someone to assist us. What my hope is that they can come in and do a, rough beginning of an asset inventory, get us started, help us recognize all of our assets, get it into a format that we can then sit down and work with, and then add to and do some of the more finer detailing of the inventory list. And that is in our strategic plan as, a goal and an initiative to work towards.
Good. I just want to clarify a couple things though. I mean, earlier you said we're going to fix the AC problem. I think we're doing a lot more than that.
We are, yes.
Right.
We are significantly upgrading. That unit is failing. We have mini splits in there. After speaking with the professional contractors who do this for a living, mini splits are not the way to go anymore. They are not the fix that we once thought they were going to be for spaces like this. So we are putting in a new unit, and we are doing appropriate duct work and putting in bulkheads to provide better heating and cooling for the entirety of the space. I have further answers. Finance was curious whether it was going to be zoned. For this small of a space, it is not recommended that it needs to be zoned. It will have circulating components, so there will be a fan that can operate in the space as well, cycling the air in there. And then we will have the smart thermostats on there to help, with weather to keep it more consistent.
Hence the number and the cost.
Yes.
Might be a lot higher.
And one other item that I think is important to note for the record, it is not a commercial unit. And the reason for that is we do not have the commercial power source there at that space. We don't have the appropriate hookup. If we were to want to go to that, we are looking at several tens of thousands on top of what has already been quoted to us. The commercial unit would take up, as it was referenced to me by the contractor, the spacing of a small pickup truck, and we would need to allocate that space in the parking lot and then do appropriate barricades or bollards to protect the unit. So that was not recommended for us to proceed that route, instead to proceed with the unit recommended.
A few more things.
Sure.
I'll try to make it quick.
All right.
Can we just talk real quick? You have a meeting on, it's both for you and Mary, Emily, related to the youth and government. There's a scheduled meeting next week on the 17th.
That's correct.
Do we know what time that meeting is?
Yes, 9:30 are we going to be at Town Hall? Okay, Town Hall.
Okay, 9:30. And are we engaged with the civics teacher up at Battlefield? Is he going to be, or is she going to be part of the development of the curriculum on that?
We did already meet with Mr. Pauly. He did
That's
come
it,
in
Mr.
and he
Pauly.
provided us with printed out standards of learning that the government students follow throughout the year. I was also able to go online and find the listed sequence that the government teachers are supposed to follow. So I'm utilizing both those resources. I plan to have a draft of the program ready, hopefully by next week. I think that was the goal, to have it ready by next week.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's good.
If I could just add one point on that, when we met with the teacher, we did talk about changing who this program was geared towards, it being geared towards the seniors in high school. And we are changing up the format just a little bit. And I recommended that we make it more of a debate style and we make multiple teams and do more of a debate and they get topics, pro and
So what schools would be involved in that? Do we know?
I would gear our focus in advertising. Obviously, I would have it open to anyone who applies. I'm not going to turn someone away because their address isn't close by, but I would advertise to Gainesville High School because that's the high school that serves our town, but also Battlefield because they're super close and they are part of our community as well. So if you guys have other insights into other high schools that you feel like maybe have a program that I'm not aware of that would benefit from this opportunity, let me know. I'm happy to expand that. We are going to need a minimum of 10 participants and a maximum of 20. So, yeah, yes.
I'm just wondering if it makes sense. There are a number of different private high schools in the area
Okay.
as well that a lot of our town residents do attend.
Uh-huh.
Might be worth looking at places like, not exhaustive list, obviously, but look at Wakefield, look at Seton, Manassas. Might be good to look at as well.
Yeah.
Could you
That's
send
true.
me an email with a list that you know of already for me, please?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
And I'll send you my suggestion.
Please, yeah, any suggestions are welcome. Just send them to me in an email so I can keep them all together.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Gainesville, and I'm sure the other high schools do it, but I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I know Gainesville, they're involved in a thing called Model UN around the Northern Virginia area. So there may be some ability to kind of include that in the debate, perhaps. I don't know. I think that might be a different issue dealing, because you're looking at more, local issues, more,
Mhm.
how does the council work and things like that, or local government kind of.
Yeah, what
That's the
they're
theme.
studying is local governments in the state and how we interact with each other and things like that. So we plan to gear it towards what they're learning at school already and kind of reinforce that. Hopefully Mr. Pauly had articulated that this would count towards their grade in his class. And he would probably be comfortable advocating for that with other government teachers as well. So that's kind of why we're trying to focus on the standards of learning that they're going to be expected.
There'll be no skipping that class.
Well, it would be a
20.
huge privilege to get to participate. So we wanted to make it worthwhile. And since
Excellent.
Mr. Pauly is super supportive, I think
With
it'll
that
be worth it.
activity, I think you'll get more than 20 head count.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, we want to keep it manageable though. For our very first go around, we have not done a debate style, but we will need some moderators if anybody wants to help with that.
I might find that interesting.
Yeah, so
Very interesting.
Okay, final questions, final Jeopardy question, I guess. So in your report, or the engineering side or the planning side, you're talking about Carter School and Blight Drive. I mean, these are kind of really bubbling and moving forward.
yes,
Do we have any concepts that we can share, that you can share with us?
absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to it, but I'd like to see what they're talking about with Carter School, which will be right over here.
What if council's amenable to it, what if at the next work session, I prepare a brief, like 20-minute maximum little presentation update on all planning and zoning related topics that we're currently going through? And then that way we can run through it. We'll run through this list and anything active. And then where I can, I will plug in a visual, whether it be a site plan or an architectural schematic if I have it. Is that acceptable?
And last question, what time's your meeting on the 16th? Your Tanvi?
12.
We're finalizing that, if it's going to be 11 a.m. or 12. We need to just finalize the start time there.
Okay, and that's open to all council?
I was gonna say, it's usually the mayor and.
It's usually the-
and town
the
manager
mayors.
And
Okay, so I
Yeah.
couldn't, break in and. Okay, all right.
come for a cup of tea.
It's
Yeah,
yeah,
for a free
typically
cup of coffee or
the
something.
mayor and the town managers, and we will be hosting it over at the hotel. It's first time in a very long time, if ever, that the town's hosting it, so we're pretty excited
Oh,
that they're
really?
gonna come visit us,
That's right.
so.
I
You
wanna
can
crash
invite
it,
them
though.
to your finance
We
meeting,
could. They probably have. some
which is
really good
at
finance
2,
meetings.
right? 2 on the 16th?
Yes,
I'm
2 p.m. on the
16th.
16th at Town
Okay,
Hall.
so they could just like pop right over and see you.
Yeah, just like we could come to the.
Joe, I'll bring you some
can
leftovers
come
from
and
lunch.
visit.
I'll bring you some leftovers from
Okay,
lunch.
that's fair. Okay, so I don't have to crash it. Okay.
No, sir.
All right. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ken, did you want to circle back on anything with the ACs?
No, that's good. I just wanted to be transparent of what we were discussing last week, since we didn't have a chance to update the agenda items.
All right, perfect. Does anybody else have anything?
Sure. I'll make it quick, I promise. After all that harsh stuff we had to go over, Emily, can you give any updates on the mayor's message? I know, right? Can let us, I think that's a great,
I hope everybody's had a chance to watch it
Yes.
and see the first 2 that we put out and see our awesome mayor at work and her fun character we made of her. I think that's great.
Caricature?
Our next one posts tomorrow morning. It is with 1971 coffee. Join the team, learn how to make a latte, make latte art. It's super fun. We learn about the business. It's been really engaging. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from our businesses, and we're working to build that in the community and get it shared more. Julia and I got together and we kind of brainstormed some ideas based on Councilmember Bayanet's feedback of how can we track this and where can we see some of the data points. So we're hoping to kind of build something so that we can show you not just the quantitative data, but also some of the qualitative remarks. We're going to do that through some surveys that are sent out to the businesses that participated, and hope to get some information back from them on what it meant to them to participate and what benefits, they've seen, if any, and what would they recommend for making it better. If you're interested in all participating, let me know. We're going to do special interviews. Each month, we're going to talk about how we can tap into the next council person and get you interviewed. We are doing a filming on Thursday, so we'll be doing 4 businesses, and then one of our businesses that won at Business Roundtable, they'll be doing their separate video there. So it'll be a good day. We've had great feedback. Thank you for
very
bringing it up.
awesome. Yeah.
They're fun. Anything else? No? Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the pooled reports on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mayor, I move that the Haymarket Town Council approve item 5 consent agenda, items B1 and B3.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope. All right, so let's move on to the agenda items. The first item is to reappoint Jerome Gonzalez to the Planning Commission. You'll find that draft motion on packet page 54. Is there a motion to reappoint Mr. Gonzalez?
I think the planning liaison.
I would take over.
Okay,
I move to, there we go. Recommend motion. I move to reappoint Jerome Gonzalez to the Haymarket Planning Commission with the term beginning July 2nd or July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2029.
Second.
all right. Is there a discussion? No? All right, roll call, please.
Pasanello,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Gallagher,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Baker.
Aye.
Okay. So the next item is the planning commission vacancy. Kim, can you give us a brief update?
Yes, ma'am. We are on packet page 58. This evening, we have with us the applicant, and I'm going to mess this up, Serja Nair. She lives on Caboose Trail, and she is interested in the vacancy on Planning Commission. Last week you spoke with Mr. Kress, and now this evening, Ms. Nair. And if you just want to come up to the podium there, to the microphone, they'll be able to ask you some questions.
Welcome. How are you this evening?
Is it turned on?
Good.
Should be on. Push the little red button
Until it turns green.
till it turns green. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
So last week, we asked some questions and we wanted to be transparent. So they are printed in front. So as we ask to keep consistency.
I think the planning liaison should take the lead on this.
Everybody was taking the lead. All right, let's go here.
Surprise.
I know, there we go. What made you interested or what do you like professionally think of being on the planning commission, or what made you interested in joining the planning commission?
So basically we just moved here in the month of March. So before that we were living in Fairfax County. I tried applying in the Fairfax County also. So I want to be included in the town that I'm part of. My kids are being raised here, so I want to give them the perfect life. So if I know how my town works, that way I can help my kids too. Yeah.
You guys have follow-up questions? No? Hey, try. And then, are you okay with the meeting times and at 7 PM and then the 3-year commitment with the planning commission?
Oh yeah, perfectly. Because I'm in between jobs right now, so I'm not saying that I'm perfectly all time I'll be like this only, but I definitely want to take time for the town and providing a better be included in the planning of the town.
That's all the questions I have.
Just curious, you said you're between jobs. What do you normally do professionally?
I was an HR.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in India. I was an HR in Royal Bank of Scotland. That's a bank. I moved here. We moved here in 2019. Then the COVID hit. I didn't get anything. After that, I was working as an instructional instructor in Fairfax County till last year. Yeah.
I'll follow up with just one more. I mean, so one of the things that, what is it specifically about the planning commission, is attractive to you? And, are you familiar with any of the state codes or local, kind of rules with regards to planning?
To be very honest, no.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to be included in that. I want to learn the ropes, how things are approved, how things are decided, how things are managed. What are the little bit criteria that we think about? Being a really small way, like, because I attended this meeting and I was like, you're talking about the footpaths, it's little things that make the town. So I want to be included in that.
So if I could jump in.
Good, please.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
You
Yeah.
too. And welcome to Haymarket.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So I read a little bit of your resume and you were in Pune. You went to school in Pune, I think it was? Or did I read the wrong resume?
I don't know.
You're,
It's not.
do you have an were you the one that has the MBA? You have an MBA?
MBA, yeah,
Right, and that's more on the HR side?
HR side, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So when it comes to learning,
Uh-huh.
I mean, you probably would have no issue, or would you have any issue with the training? Because we would offer training.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
I won't have any problem with training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. That's all.
Did we have anything further?
I'm just happy you moved here. Welcome to the town. You're March of 25, so
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Glad
Thank
you-
you so
glad you're
much.
here.
Yeah.
How many children do you have? I'm always
We
just
have
curious.
two. I have two. So
Okay.
one is a 12-year-old. He goes to Bull Run Elementary, sorry, Bull Run Middle School. And the other one, he is 6 months now.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah.
Busy month.
So you're busy. You- So when I asked about the job, that you have a full-time job.
Yeah, I do.
Being a mom,
Technically,
we
yeah.
know that.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, actually, just as a follow-up, so, I mean, are there other positions in town that you might be interested in doing as well? If the planning didn't work out this time,
Uh-huh.
would you be willing to come back and try it again? Would you be willing to try something different, like maybe Architectural Review Board?
I would love to go for the planning commission.
Okay,
Yeah, but if that's not available, something in human services, big already have an experience in that. That's these two.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So do you all want to appoint tonight, or do you want to think about this and appoint at the August meeting over your two applicants?
I could go around.
Is there a concern with,
Quorum through
That's
the
what-
quorum through the planning commission?
while if we need time
There
to?
is no concern over that.
Concern.
No, no.
And there's no-
We have four very good planning commission commissioner members that are serving, that they rarely miss a meeting. So this would be, we do July, they have a meeting tomorrow night. So they would be, they're going over their bylaws and hopefully approve their bylaws tomorrow night. They also, that would be the only action item that they would be taking tomorrow night. They have Mr. Dolsky that was here with you all from Greystone. It's coming to the Planning Commission tomorrow night to discuss his concept at the QBE property. But that's basically all they have tomorrow night. So then in August, you would meet well before they would. They meet, I believe it's like the 12th of August or something like that. So it's not following your meeting. They have a good week.
Okay. So are we collectively wanting to think about it, or are we ready? Think about it?
Yeah, I would.
Think about it?
would
Yeah,
think
just
I
so.
would like to
Case.
think about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we will do that and we'll put that on our work session.
Do you want to make the decision at your work session or your August meeting? Your August regular meeting?
I guess the question is, can we do it at the work session?
Can we do it at the
We could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Work
work
session?
session?
Work
Okay,
session.
all right.
When is the work session?
July 28th.
July 28th.
Mhm.
So we would notify the
That's
two
what I was gonna
candidates.
ask.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's what go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Finish your point.
we should notify
Yeah.
the candidates that will be making a decision on July 28th.
Mhm.
Okay,
And then I'll be put on the agenda.
okay.
Have it on there. Okay, have it on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. All right, so our next item is the Town Park RFP. Emily, can you lead us on that discussion?
Everybody should have a packet up on the dais with a little paper clip on it. As promised, I was going to get you guys a document. I apologize, I didn't have time to get it into the packet. So what you're looking at here, cover sheet, is a memorandum that I've prepared with an updated scope of work. So I would like to go through that first and then the following documents. So we're just here on the front page. I've added some bullet points here to capture what we talked about last week regarding the architectural elements needed to be specifically included in there. And also we needed to tighten up the scope regarding the square footage. So here I've proposed that we would have as deliverables schematic design of a park pavilion structure to incorporate architectural elements of the pre-existing Lewis catalog home and to design the structure based on the layout of the previous structure. The structure is not to exceed a footprint of 1,800 square feet. I put a comment here and I want to come back to that later. So just keep in mind square footage we're going to talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Next bullet point. Schematic design of public restroom facilities. Facilities shall be designed as 2 family unit restrooms and offer an element of climate control to mitigate extreme temperature fluctuations. Family units shall include the appropriate space for handicap accessibility, baby changing station, and adequate space for a family unit to occupy the facilities. Next, schematic design shall include input from the town staff regarding the design development, architectural features to resemble the previous structure on site, and general layout. Next, stone removed from the previous structure shall be utilized in the design of the park pavilion. Contractors shall work with the staff to determine the best use of salvaged materials in the new structure. Next, 3 design submissions, 20% preliminary design submission, 80% design submission, and a final approved design submission. Next item, cost estimating at all 3 of those key design phases. Permitting, we already had in there. And then I tweaked this one a little bit, but public presentations to the town council and the town architectural review board at each key design phase to include a final presentation of the design at a town council meeting. My vision here is that I would work with council and ARB to couple those meetings together as best as I could to save. Deliverables, I did add in this section that cost estimating at key design phases, and then I listed out all 3 key phases. So in this packet, I only included the scope so that we could just look at the scope and work on this scope. Next page, on page 3, I wanted to discuss, I had mentioned last week that there would be at least 2 scenarios we could go with. The first is posting the design RFP, working through that in completion, and then following up with an engineering RFP. I do have some concerns regarding this process. I think that it would slow us down and that we might have to go back and have conversations with the design firm that was chosen to make amendments as needed to the work. If council is open to the second option, here I propose that we prepare a second RFP for engineering services, and those deliverables would include reaffirming the master plan from 2015 or elements of it, a site plan, which would be done through a preliminary plan, and then the final site plan. And that ultimately this would get us the final engineering that we need so that we can go out to bid for construction while at the same time working on this design RFP. In the perfect scenario, both firms are in consultation with one another and the town. It's a collaborative effort that we are all working on at the same time. And then this is also something that we're getting the public's opinion and buy-in on when we work through that exercise of the reaffirmation of the 2015 plan or those elements of it. Happy to discuss any of this, or we can take a quick second, jump to the square footage thing I want to talk about. Okay. So if you're like me and you need a little help visualizing what 1,800 square feet can get you, it can get you a 30 by 60 area, and roughly some would say that's the 2-car garage plus some living space. However, I pulled a document that I found quite informative. Fauquier County, so this is your last page, it has some colored text on it, it's a little packet. take a look at this. So this is, if anybody's familiar, this is for the North Fauquier County Park. It is not only their pricing, but if you flip to the next pages, it outlines what their different shelters are. At each shelter or pavilion, it'll tell you the square footage, it'll tell you roughly a maximum capacity, and then what amenities, so picnic tables, are there. If you read through, you can also kind of see what other amenities they have on site. But this could give you a good idea of other parks and what they're offering square footage. You can also kind of see what they're offering pricing wise for rentals. As you have time, I would highly encourage you. It is not far from us. It's just 20 minutes down the road. It's open to the public. You can go in and walk it. If you have time, I'd recommend you go out there, take a look at some of these spaces, denote which named shelter it is. And then we can talk about if we need to increase square footage or decrease square footage. But right now I will leave the placeholder as the 1,800 square feet. That is roughly the footprint of the previous house that sat on site. So this is just a homework kind of read item. Kim and I also worked to include the minutes that reference this. She went back and looked at those meetings that referenced including the architectural elements. So take note of those minutes as well. Again, this is a reference informational item.
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
No, this is good because I was my question is, how did you come up with the square footage? So that's an easy.
So I first went to our resources and I got the actual square footage of what the house previously was. Prince William County Mapper has it at 1,817 square feet is what the previous one.
So this one Lakeview shelter is a little over 2,000 square feet, and it says it can accommodate up to 175. So that's pretty large.
It is, and I think that we also need to consider how are we going to utilize the pavilion, not just how the community would use it. But, we have a lot of events there. So what events could we hold in that space? I'm not saying this is what we're going to do, but is that an opportunity for a farmer's market there, under a covered awning? But a lot of different possibilities, a lot to think about.
Right. Would it be okay with council and you, underneath, we were talking about the public restrooms. Could we do up to 2 family unit restrooms depending on what the functions are going to be? Because we still don't know what the functionality is, right? We'd still have to determine that. I mean, this way we can evaluate whether we actually do need to, or if one is still operational or not, and we can look at the cost difference. It probably would only be incremental for a second one, but just to verify it more or less and better understand what that might look like.
Can I make a follow-up recommendation?
Sure.
What if we pose it as up to 3 restroom facilities? And the reason I say that is if we go through with the full master plan and on a busy day in the summer, if you have the park pavilion, it's being rented, you have the playground in full swing, other open space and walking trails, do we see that there could be any additional need for restroom facilities? And then instead of doing 3 family, is it male, female, and a family unit in that scenario?
I mean, you could certainly do alternatives.
Yeah, so
Different
maybe we say up to 3 to include possible alternatives in the language.
I mean, when you think about it, if you're going to do an event, you would typically hire.
Yes, for our town events, we would certainly hire in and bring additional facilities, temporary facilities on site. This would be for year round, and I think it's just going to have to ultimately come up to what other items are being placed in the park to drive.
It's all about function.
Right.
So if I could provide some feedback to that discussion, if we are potentially putting in a pavilion that can hold 175 people, I don't think 2 family restrooms is sufficient to address that attendance, let alone anything additional I do also want council to think about parking because that's a lot of cars. If someone is actually going to utilize that pavilion to its potential. So I definitely think there is great value in this master plan discussion. I think it will help us get a better picture of what the impact may be, what we can actually do, you know, if our pavilion is this large, instead of the amphitheater, is that where we're going to put more parking? Is that, how are we going to accommodate all these additional cars or vehicles or people? And I certainly think restrooms are hugely important. As a mother and a Girl Scout leader, like, restrooms are really, really important. So I think those amenities are essential when we're planning this out.
Anybody else?
Well, maybe if we do end up renting it out for somebody that was, if the capability is 175, renting out a 175 event, that we would probably place a requirement to add services to it, such as a few Don's Johns to compensate. But that's an option, right?
Right. I mean, it's 175 really. I mean, we don't know what the sizing is.
Right.
I mean, that's something you've got to really think through.
Just got to hash out.
Also, taking a look at what these other
Yeah.
places
parking.
have and what they offer would be a good comparison as well, not only
That's a
in
lot
square
of people.
footage, but
Yeah, I mean, the Fauquier County Community Park has restrooms around the, like, playgrounds and the pavilions. So, and it's male, female. I don't recall if there is a family unit, but, okay, and the family unit in the house. So, and they also offer water fountains.
And we will have to analyze this in comparison to our zoning ordinance. And if we're going off of the parking requirements that we currently have, for example, we would only be required to have 8.3 parking spaces for a pavilion structure that is 2,500 square feet. So we do
But-
need to keep in mind that there's the minimum we need to meet, and that's stated here. So other public uses is same as municipal. Municipal is flagged as 1 space per 300 square feet. And so when you do that calculation, you get 8.3. If you're looking at places of assembly, you're looking at 1 per 4. But again, this is all what comes up in the engineering phase. And so we need to meet the minimum, but then we also need a plan for how
And-
popular it could be.
I don't want
And-
us to do the minimum when it comes to providing services for our community.
Well, not only that, Emily, let's look at the event ordinance that we're going to look at today. If
Mhm.
you look there, that's requiring 1 parking spot per 3 people. That's what's
Good point, yeah.
in there. So if you do that, and we're looking at 175 people capability,
Build a garage.
yeah, 2-story garage.
Really.
So then there certainly would be limitations on the rentability of the space too. So this makes great conversation of why we definitely need to do engineering on it. What I did put in here is that I would be looking for council's directive on proceeding forward with the scope of work that's been proposed, page 1 and 2. If there's any additions, and then furthermore, is there a preferred scenario, or do we need to talk about a third option to keep this project moving forward? And there will be cost implications, and there's also going to be a need for discussion with our finance liaisons of what does running 2 of these RFPs look like cost-wise, and then ultimately working on that funding for the next fiscal year. You know, what can we fund now and what can we fund FY27?
You know, if this is targeted towards our community, does it have to be that big?
Pardon?
If it's targeted just for the Haymarket community, does it have to be that big?
No. I think that, this is ultimately in the hands of council and working with what your community wants and envisions. And so, you guys are up here as the leaders to make these decisions, and it doesn't need to be as big. We don't need to recreate what another jurisdiction who's very, very large in comparison does, what they're doing. We need to make what's right for our community. And that might just be a small gathering place and a small pavilion to have it be, half of it could be rented, or maybe the whole thing rented.
Again,
Somewhere we can host some of our event things that we offer, but doesn't have to be big enough to hold a farmer's market. With our new site plan here at Town Hall, it's going to be a great site for the farmer's market.
So aside from, I apologize, I'm so sorry, I did not raise my hand. Aside from the use of it for our events, what I'm hearing is it needs to be available for our community. So let's think deeply about what we're labeling as our community. Is it the town residents are only allowed to use it? Is it 20169? Is it 20151, the other half of Green Hill Crossing? People who can walk to the pavilion and utilize it? I think we need to be very careful about who we may be excluding in this thought process, because part of the greater discussion is the mass amount of growth that we have seen, not just in our town, but outside of our town, which we have no control over. And I think in previous discussions, especially discussions surrounding the House, it has become very clear that there is very little meeting space for community anything, for birthday parties, for troops of the Scouts nature, for any kind of anything. There is very little gathering space. So when we make these decisions, we need to make sure that we are catering to everyone who is part of our community, not just the residents.
I'd like to follow up on that. And that's a good point. I think that's a very good point. But if that's the case, if we're expanding it further outside the town, then perhaps that might be an opportunity to partner with others, like the county, perhaps, Parks and Rec. Is there an opportunity there? Because if we're going to expand the network or expand the net, it's going to be a lot of folks from outside of town here. I mean, as a matter of fact, I don't even know who uses the playground. It's not, can't just be kids from town and families from town.
No.
So there may be an opportunity to collaborate here on operation and expenses. That's all I'm suggesting.
Are you saying that
Yes.
we would partner with the county to kind of make our pavilion rentable through their entity and get their buy-in in that way? Is that what you're envisioning?
I think we should explore the opportunity. If in fact we're
This-
going to expand it beyond the citizens of town, which I kind of think makes sense in your argument, it was a pretty fair argument. If we're going to do that, then somehow we have to be able to compensate for that.
Have you
But it-
heard of something like that happening, staff?
I'm sure it happens. Specifically, I don't have an example of it, but I'm sure that in many scenarios, jurisdictions come together to provide a type of service like that. The thing that I would say is, first and foremost, we do need to plan it for our community and our taxpayers who are paying for it. We need to take into consideration what they want to see and reaffirm that we hear them and we're building what they're asking for. And then talk about how we further the services to be welcoming to all of our community. Maybe we build what our community is looking for and wanting, and we don't turn away others. We don't ticket it. We don't scan for residency or charge any fees. And that's how we're welcoming to the outer greater Haymarket community. I will say, I'm not sure how the park would take the feedback from the county, because they do have James Long Park and they do have a lot of services and amenities offered there. They have Silver Lake, they have some other local parks. So I just don't know what that partnership would look like until we initiated a conversation there.
It could be something you discuss with the CXO.
It could be.
Having the discussion, great. But at the end of the day, we have a playground that is there. That was done for the community. We don't have any things set in place. Anybody can go there. Like I
Right.
can meet somebody from Gainesville or Bristow. The pavilion is just an extension of this space. So I understand the need of the square footage. We're a walkable town. So understanding that, yes, we would like to utilize whatever we build for whatever event that might fit that space. I don't think we need to plan a space to fit the biggest event. And I would be curious, an overlay of of the zoning ordinance and the event ordinance as far as parking, and then kind of seeing, again, I'm going to focus on we're walkable, and we have the park there currently, and I am certain that there are people outside of our community, friends that come. So,
And just real quick to go back to our examples at the Fauquier Community Park, if you just took one of these smaller shelters that's 592 square feet, you double that, and then you go off of their capacities, we're already looking at 80 persons can be there in the pavilion, plus a little bit more if we do the 1,800 square feet. So that certainly is a big capacity to consider. And then with our outdoor event ordinance, you can further allow for more attendees through special exceptions and permitting.
And I guess if I may, the question of the square footage, does it include the restrooms or not?
No,
Which is-
no, my intention was not to include the restrooms in the 1,800 square feet. My intention was that this is for a pavilion. I did put a question in the comment box over here. I'm sorry, the text is so small, but that was a question back to council, is does this square footage include the bathrooms? My recommendation is no, that it would not. The bathroom square footage stands outside of this number. If you recall the house that sat there, I mean, it was a pretty large house, and if you think about it, had 3, 4, 5, it had 5 rooms and a kitchen. When you start thinking about that in small groups or larger groups utilizing it, it is still a good sized space.
Justin?
Yeah. Thank you for putting this all together. First, if it's not with the square footage for the bathroom, a 500, square feet would work perfectly for us, and the community. We don't have to go, all out with the 175. And that leaves us more room for bathrooms. But to your point, Joe, with the county kind of being on it, I foresee just them, pushing us back and saying, no, I don't think we'll get any kind of input from them. I wish we would, but I don't think they would help us on the park side. But I think, yeah, but I don't think they'll come back with anything. I think they'll just, with everything else that's going on that I feel like we've asked them for, they're not gonna be like, oh, now you guys are building the park. Let's do that. Like, we'll hop on that bandwagon. They haven't helped us with anything so far, so I don't know why they would help us with the park. You can ask, but I don't know how far we'll get, But onto that, I think going with maybe a smaller size to just get that full space. But Emily, what do you think? What's the best option? Because you've kind of put this all together and with the RFP and moving forward.
From someone who's
Seen it, been through it.
been familiar with the building and what it meant to some of the community members and every conversation we've had in my time here, I think it would be really cool to see it be the footprint of the old house. I think it would be a nice feature. My personal design feature that I would love to see happen there is that you make it the same footprint and layout of the house, and then you do specific concrete work to lay out what the rooms were in the house, because then it's kind of a cool historic feature that you're paying homage to the building that was there. You're paying homage to the fact that it was a mail order home. That's unique in itself. And you're representing it. It's a cool talking point for all of us. You know, it's a cool thing to say, oh yeah, and our park has the pavilion. That's the old footprint of this cool mail order home. It helps us be able to put a historic display board up there and really speak to what kind of house sat there. So as a staff point of view, that would be my vision for it, is the specific layout of the house and match that square footage up. Maybe not include one of the back additions that was put on later, but the original footprint of the house, and then have that concrete work to show the rooms delineated and do something cool like
That
that.
would stay in alignment with all of the discussions that we
It
had.
would.
Leading up to the decision.
The discussions and the things that weren't necessarily included in the motions, but some of the intent that was behind the discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to kind of call out too, it's our strategic plan.
Mhm.
1.1, I mean, is
Yeah.
complete the implementation of the town park. And everything we've talked about is, it's a fantastic property that we talk about regularly, both publicly and privately with the community, is that we want it to be a first-class establishment, a first-class place that is welcoming, that is indicative of everybody's hometown. I personally would be against putting any kind of restrictions on, people coming over from walking across the street from Green Hill Crossing just because they're on the other side of, the clubhouse side. That just feels wrong to me. I want it to be a welcoming community, just as we invite them and welcome them to Haymarket Day, just as we invite them and welcome them to our, all of our other events. Like we invite them and welcome them to our, our farmers market. I envision this as a first-class place that puts us on the map even more, and ultimately, frankly, increases our property values. That we can point to and say, look at that park over there. That's what we have. It's better than the counties, frankly. I mean, that's what I'd like to be able to say. I've been to the park up in Fauquier County. It's a beautiful place. I can tell you, at least from the Boy Scouts perspective, most of the local troops around here, that's what they use. That's where they go to host their outdoor events. I'd love to welcome them here. Let's not have them drive 15, 20 minutes up the road. Let's put that out there, and make this a really welcoming place for the community. And that means, yes, maybe it doesn't have to be 1,800 feet, but maybe 1,200, or we account for a little bit of parking in there. Having a restroom that is, clean, accessible, not an outhouse, it's, somewhere between the two. It's something that's, good for, the years going forward. But that's kind of what I like to envision. And I just really want to make sure that we pay attention to. This is our own strategic plan that we all debated and agreed upon. It's 1.1. It's the first thing we talk about.
I will also say the building, the square footage did include the bathrooms,
It did.
the house.
Oh, the
Yeah,
original. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
the house, the
Mhm.
square footage that there was a bathroom in there.
And I think that point would just be a discussion of council. Do you want the bathrooms attached to the pavilion or standalone? That would just be a consideration.
I also wanted, through your notes, I was actually inspired to ask council to consider our preference on this. It talks about if it's a standalone pavilion, if there's electric or water access. That's a feature that I think we need to discuss for the RFP and the pricing out of things, if I'm correct. So if it's in alignment, if the bathrooms are with the pavilion, right, like they're connected, then that would kind of cover the electric water concern. Would we like them separate, together? I think those points are important.
Yes, we should talk about if we want water and electric service at the pavilion, but I don't want you guys to be limited that the bathrooms have to be connected to have that service. We can design it to both be standalone and have both services. One just final note on the footprint part. Think about if we do the footprint with the catalog home layout, that would be a unique feature that certainly makes our pavilion stand apart of Fauquier counties, Prince William counties. That's something that's unique to us, and I think you guys should consider that.
I'm on board the footprint part. Joe?
So I think one of the things I don't see in this RFP, and we got to think about this long and hard, and it has to do with functionality and all of those things, is the operation and maintenance. And somehow we have to get a sense of what that's going to cost going forward. What the operating and maintenance costs associated with this functioning, people gathering, toilet using, park loving, whatever. It's going to require a lot of attention from what I'm hearing and what people envision. It's going to require considerable attention, which is going to translate into operating and maintenance costs. So we have to, if there's a way that we can translate what the design is into that kind of cost, so we better understand it for the future, I think that's critical to a decision as well, which gets back to what the functionality is.
And to date, as staff, I don't necessarily know that we have enough information from council on the functionality of it to determine maintenance cost or project it right now. Does council want to further discuss?
I don't think it would be a tremendous amount. Wintertime is not going to be, I think, utilized a lot. Yeah, the bathrooms will probably be.
Right.
And then during the summer, maybe a little bit, but I can't think of it would be as much as our snow removal and things like that. Like, I think it would be the same, like kind of just like throwing that out there as a number of what it would be.
So what I would see is increased trash. That would
Yeah.
just be wrapped into the trash duties now, but of course that would take longer because you're doing an increased trash flow. Is it still, amenable to have only one dumpster here at this site? Do we need to evaluate having a second on the park site? If so, how do you police it? How do you mitigate that with residents? The restroom facilities, we don't know until it's built. How often do you have to clean it in the summer? We can estimate now, okay, it needs to be cleaned probably 3 times a week, Monday after the weekend, Wednesday, and a Friday before the weekend. But in the summer, is that a high demand? It needs to be cleaned daily. What type of service does that look like? Is that contracted out? Is it with current staff load? That's a change in description there when you start asking somebody to start doing facilities cleaning. Those would be some of the big ticket things. Of course, we'd still have grounds maintenance that we already have contracted out. That would remain. It would obviously change what's being taken care of, but once you start putting in the pavilion, you're talking about ensuring that the concrete or whatever is maintained properly long-term. If you're putting in asphalt trails, we have to talk about those amenities. How are they being cared for seasonally? So it's a lot, and without knowing all of the master plan elements, can we appropriately assign dollar figures? I don't want us to get stuck in a circle.
Well, it's an iterative process.
Right.
When you really think about it. But yeah, you hit on a lot of points, and I think we could get some estimates for that, right? And it's also the materials that are being used over the period of time for the useful life, and what are the replacement requirements for the materials? How often does it have to be cleaned? I'm not sure what kind of materials we're even talking about. I mean, you envision an open air pavilion, but I'm not sure what design they're going to be coming up with and what kind of materials we're using for that. How often does that have to be cleaned? Not just from a usage standpoint, from a weathering standpoint. Yeah.
Are you suggesting that we hold off on directing additional RFP notes?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting that it'd be better if we could figure out, or at least get some estimates on what the operating.
I think
maintenance costs are.
regardless, because we're building this, we're going to need to get those estimates. But when?
And Roberta made a good point. I can try reaching out to the county and ask if they would be willing to share some of their operational maintenance costs for one of their nearby
Great idea.
facilities. I can see what information they're willing to share. We might have to cherry pick like what park has similar facilities. I don't know, does James Long have bathrooms? I'm not sure. They
James
do?
Long?
Yeah, they have restrooms. Okay. So we could probably use James Long as a good comparison for roughly grounds, pavilion, maintenance, and restrooms, things of that nature.
Ken, did you have something additional to say?
No, I just, pretty much my comment was Prince William County Parks and Rec are our friends. Do the data. Grab their data.
So if I may, just final question. So in going through page 2, Emily, so are you saying that the deliverables are going to be biddable documents? That's going to be for biddable?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, that's it. That's all I had.
And my quick comment, I prefer option 2 on your RFP planning. I think an integrated strategic plan or master plan with this needs to be put in place because we've already broached the parking issues, right?
Right.
I would agree with that. I would be in support
I was
of
gonna say,
option.
let's
Absolutely.
go through. So
Was it vote?
Ken- I just like a, Joe, are you in support of option 2?
I'm still reading it.
Okay, look, I'll circle back to you. So Ken's yes, Matt's yes.
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 I'm a yes if that means anything. but-
Cost a little more, but I think it's necessary.
No, I mean, it's a good communication too. So I think it makes sense to do that. Option 2, yeah.
We're all on board with option 2. And then you're looking for a directive.
Yes, can I ask one clarifying question for the scope of work? Because this will be part of the directive. On bullet point number 2, I'll probably add one right underneath of it. Is council amenable to including language that the footprint will be in the layout of the previous structure to include detailed design work of the pad? I'll find the right language, but detailed design work of the pad to recognize the structure's rooms or something. I'll work on the language of it, but
The floor plan.
the floor plan, put that in there.
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Yeah, and it also gives the opportunity to partition that pavilion out if we need to do multiple rentals or parties.
Okay.
If you do include something like that in it.
Okay, so then for the directive, what I would be looking for is that we continue proceeding forward with the scope of work as presented and discussed tonight, and that staff begin working on the RFP for the engineering work of the town park.
Yes.
Yes.
So directed.
So directed, all in agreement?
Any
Okay.
objections? No?
So I will, July 28th, bring back updates. I will work on finalizing this RFP, plugging it into the document, and then working on the scope of work for those engineering services, and hope to have a pretty final draft to you guys on the 28th.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our 4th item on the agenda is the compensation study RFP. Emily.
And we handled and discussed that through the closed session meeting. A directive was given, so I will be following up with Vice Mayor and Councilmember Baker to initiate that meeting as directed.
Perfect, thank you. And we are moving on to the outdoor events ordinance. Can you lead us in this?
Yes, so outdoor event ordinance, this was previously brought up. We have had some larger outdoor events that have occurred in the town. Typically, we have applicants who are hosting these events apply to the town for a special permit. And the reasoning here is we are hoping to ensure health, safety for everybody involved, whether they're attending the event or they're neighboring the property. So we wanted to reevaluate our outdoor event ordinance and tighten up a couple items, especially in regards to how they communicate with the town, how they apply for it, and who is required to apply for it, what those triggers are. So we have a draft update in the agenda. Are there any specific questions from the get-go on this? Any major discussion points that we want to start off with?
Thank you. I just want to confirm that this is the updated with our previous comments version, correct? So you've taken into account what we had discussed, I believe, last year when presenting this, because the verbiage I had requested to be removed appears to be so. I just wanted to confirm.
Looks like
that
there's two
that's-
forms, two different.
Are there
So
two?
we have the draft in here and then,
Yeah, so the draft is the one
Page 17.
that's missing the part that I had requested to
yes,
be
so
removed. Okay.
packet page 60
Mhm.
is what is current, what is on our current code website. And then packet page 66
Okay.
is your draft.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
And we did try to include all of the recommendations from council. It has been a bit, so we might have missed some.
Okay.
If we did, please alert us so that we can address that.
Perfect, thank you.
Commentary.
Yes.
You gonna go? No. Okay. So yes, so my comment was related to that section 15.7, paragraph B that was deleted. And I agree with that, and I think the rationale behind that is it be consistent and applicable to all businesses regardless of lot size. No carve-outs. So we're eliminating the carve-out.
Yep.
And everybody has to play by the same rules. Right, okay. So I can agree with that. And essentially, to your point earlier, Emily, just previous to that, I mean, it fits with 15.2, right? Section, what is that? Section 2, not in this document, the state code, but
Right.
ensuring the public health, safety, convenience, and welfare of our citizens. I mean, that's really what it's all about, because found that safety has been compromised at times because of not applying consistently across the board, at least from my observation. And that's my only comment.
Justin?
No.
No?
No comments.
Okay.
One of the things, council, just for your awareness, I do need to follow up with Chief on what I've presented here draft-wise to ensure that from his safety aspects of it, that he's in complete agreement, as well as in the permitting process, should they need to work with the local police department, our police department, to provide a security plan or hire any off-duty officers, that we appropriately address that in this document. Or if that's not going to be the case, what their alternative is to seek proper security as deemed appropriate by the town. Town being myself and Chief reviewing this permit application.
When you discuss about asking for private security through the police department, do you feel like there is an adequate, I don't know, like expectation in terms of fees? Does the police department already have something set up? Is that something we should include in this verbiage for clarity? Or
We will, I'll speak with Chief on what the appropriate verbiage is for when an officer needs to be hired, whether the verbiage is explicit that it has to be of a certain jurisdiction, or what is an appropriate means of security. And then we will also address that should it be an officer from our police department, we will reference a set fee where it can be found, how that can be obtained.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so I didn't have anything, but then I saw something.
Okay.
On 15-14 transfer, throughout this document, we do reference the applicant, and we are talking about non-residential properties. So we're talking about specifically businesses or nonprofit organizations, presumably. The transfer kind of says it's not transferable or movable to another location or another person. Is another person the appropriate word there, or should it be another business
Or is
or
it?
entity? And perhaps that's a question for our town attorney.
Olan,
I think
do
you could put
you-
in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you could put in individual or entity, so you
Okay.
cover both bases, because there may be some folks who applies individuals for outdoor events permits or outdoor events permission, so, it would cover it, I think we include individuals and entities, yeah.
It's probably a rare situation, but I just want to make sure we covered it.
Okay. Anything additional? No? All right.
So can
Okay.
I ask a question about the timeline for this?
Sure.
What's the timeline?
I was just gonna say.
Emily's getting ready to say something, but
We're hyping up the 28th to be a busy meeting. So I think that Chief and I can pretty quickly have our conversation, make sure that what we need on our end is included. It sounds like council only had a very minor adjustment here. I don't foresee this being a big push on Chief and I's part to get a final draft back to you. Would council want to take it up on the 28th for review of the final draft?
and then vote on the August
Well,
meeting.
No, we need to publicly notify.
Yep.
We
Okay.
we need to publicly notify. And so I would want us to get a final draft ready and then set our timeline that night of what dates we're going to publicly notify, when we're going to receive public comment, and put that information out there.
So you will add the couple things, talk with chief, and then we'll discuss on the work session of the 28th. And at that point, we'll set the timeline for public notice.
Yes,
all that.
I'll have a proposed timeline in the memorandum with this document so that it's already up there in a draft format for council to affirm that evening. So I'll get with Kim on when we can get it to the paper and scheduled.
Okay, perfect. We're all good? Okay. We are on our last item, which is the draft code of ethics. Kim, will you lead us in this discussion, please?
Okay. Starting on packet page 73, you will see the old draft of the Code of Ethics with Standard of Conduct and some little red comments and these comments came from Ben Barbin, who serves on the Architectural Review Board, when he looked it over. So those are his comments for your review. On packet page 78, you asked me last week to draft off a one-page or so similar to Herndon's, and this is what I came up with. And on the following page 80 is Herndon's Code of Ethics. I do want to point out with Herndon's, they reference their town charter and their town code in their Code of Ethics. We don't have, like, for example, in Herndon's section 3-A, it says members of council and council appointed boards and commission members shall bring up any concerns about the performance of a council member or council appointee to the entire council. Herndon Town Charter section such. We don't have those in our charter. We don't have those references for me to reference into in our charter or in our town code. So I don't know if you wanted me to go back and add those items, what to that one page.
What's your opinion?
I actually had a question
Sure.
that I was hoping that council could possibly engage with me. So I see that this is kind of inspired by the Herndon's Code of Ethics. Speaking specifically to 3A, I was curious if council felt, because when I read this, I'll just say, like, my first question was like, oh, why wouldn't we bring it to the mayor if we had an issue or we were concerned about someone's behavior? And to initiate that kind of conversation. Because I'm unsure in like using this, how would we address that? Is it during council member time? Like we just throw someone under the bus, or do we try to have like mediation? If it's against the law, obviously it's not going to be something that you're going to be quiet about, but if it's like either contention or what have you, is it appropriate to have on the dais? Is that something that we want to handle this way? Because what I would hate is for us to be following this protocol and it to come off as a sense of disunity. I don't know. Or I oftentimes wonder if putting things publicly could deter growth and progress in that regard, as far as colleagues' work. So like we would privately discuss any concerns with staff with our town manager. I wonder if we as a town council would prefer us addressing it with the mayor first and then following forward from there.
I have a thought on
Mhm.
that. Well, it doesn't say that it would be done publicly, and at least that's my read of it. So
Okay.
I think that's one thing. And the other question about going directly to the mayor, it could include the mayor.
Okay.
So you would have to consider that as well. So as far as the process, I mean, that would be something I think we should discuss.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a situation where that came up, how would it be handled? And frankly, I would recommend it be handled more discreetly, but that's just my thought.
Overall respect, right?
Yeah.
And professionalism.
Right.
And to that end, I would assume, I read this and I see, it's about the performance of the town council member or I would assume that might be something that could be addressed in a closed session to kind of get it should be, I would think that should be addressed in a closed session, but that's kind of how I read it.
Okay. So for clarity for us on council who are potentially abiding by this, how do we call for a closed session again? Is there like, I would assume it would be going to the mayor and asking for a closed session.
Well, the mayor can call a meeting and
Right.
two members can call a meeting.
Okay.
A special meeting.
Special session, right.
Okay.
Which could be a closed.
Which can be a closed session.
Okay.
So in following up, I mean, relative to how something like that would be handled is a pitfall for liability, I would think publicly. And I would appreciate your input and thoughts on how something should be handled because it might be useful.
I think you're thinking about this the right way in terms of, dealing with these things off of the dais. Because it's going to create some uncomfortable moments and potentially ugly moments. And it disrupts your ability to take care of the town's business. If there's a way to go forward and discuss issues that arise in a closed session fashion, that's the best way to do it. Now, I haven't looked at the closed session ordinance code section to make sure we can actually go into closed session to deal with a council member's misbehavior, if that's the case. But if I can find a provision that talks about that, we can use that. If not, there may be another way to deal with it where there's a meeting with the town manager, the mayor, and the person who has a grievance. And we sort of start there. And we have conversations that don't involve three council members, but just conversations where there's those folks involved initially to talk about the path forward. So we're sort of ironing out what the issues are, discussing them and airing them out, and then deciding how we want to proceed But yes, my recommendations is this is done off of the dais. There's several ways we can go about doing that. I think we need to be creative about how we approach it.
Are you wanting specific verbiage within the code of ethics?
Since it's not in the charter, since it's not really in our policies and procedures, since it's not really anywhere, I feel like that guidance would be really helpful for those who might hold this position after us or who might join us at a later date for whatever reason. You know, I think that being very clear and direct with how to move forward in a situation and have it clearly written for everyone to understand, I think that would be very helpful.
So Kim, to clarify, would that be what you were addressing in the fact that we
Yeah,
don't have a
so
target?
for, let's,
Yeah.
so I have Town of Hurden's charter pulled up, that's section 3.5 and of Town of Hurden's charter says, town council shall have all powers authority that are now or may thereafter be granted to councils of towns by general laws of the Commonwealth by this charter. And it just shall not be taken or exclude the exercise of any power and authority granted by the general laws of the Commonwealth.
Right.
That's what's referencing the 3.5. So I can, put in there, Town of Haymarket will, if there is a concern that a closed session would be taken at that time to discuss the performance of the council member or whatever you want me to put in there.
Closed session can be,
Is that more our town attorney? Should he like kind of word something for us where it's like covering all bases? If I
Yeah.
I can work with Kim and find some language that works for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is a process where we could find something that makes sense. We need to look at the code to make sure we can even go into closed session. It's really important for us to do as well. But if we can't go into closed session, there's other ways to do this, I
Right.
think, going forward. that
Like
just
the
is
mediation, like you
sensible.
spoke about, that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
talk and
right.
discuss as a
And
unit.
if the mayor is the problem, I mean, perhaps we could deal with, not that you would be.
No, but-
Not this mayor, not this mayor, not this mayor, of course, but if
Yeah,
another
no,
There
mayor
you go.
is a
You recovered.
problem,
You recovered well.
then we could, you would start perhaps with the town manager and another council member.
Okay.
You know, the code does provide for discipline for councils or governing bodies, I guess. So I forget what section it is, but it's in there for certain behavior. So you might want to look at that too.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. I'll work with Olan on getting it cleaned up a little bit more for you.
okay.
Thank you.
Do you think that we could have that for the July 28th
I
work
will
session?
work on it. I can't guarantee
Do-
All
I
right.
will work
Is,
on
is
it.
that an issue that needs to be added into the code of ethics, or is this some type of procedures and policies? Kind of like the employee handbook or the
Right.
guidebook, where they do talk about conflict resolution and how the processes of, have a mediator and everything else associated with it.
So
Is
you-
that about, we will follow the employee handbook book when it comes to these procedures?
I think
or-
I think you need something that really addresses what happens when council members are having a problem with each
Okay.
other, or there's someone who's acting poorly. You're really addressing that issue. I think the employment law handbook is something different from that.
Okay.
So I'd suggest, in this policy, addressing the issues you're raising regarding council members who become problematic.
Yeah, I just don't want to include this fully detailed process into this document, since this is just kind of a code of ethics.
So what you're suggesting is like a policy and then incorporate by reference, something like that, perhaps?
That's what I would assume, yeah.
I mean, that's
But
another option.
It's an
perhaps.
option.
So if I may, so we have to be clear too, that this is not just for council. I mean, the code, this whole workup is going to be a blanket essentially for all staff, all commissions, right? And
Appointees.
boards and what have
Yep.
you. So just bear that in mind.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Anybody? No? All right.
Okay.
So you have what you need?
Mm-hmm.
All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Did I have to go on the 28th meeting?
Yeah, she's gonna try.
Oh,
She's gonna try.
Oh, man.
Try. Joe, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Nope. All right. So here we are. We've done all the agenda items. So now we're moving to council member time. Okay.
I'll go first.
I was gonna say Alexander's not here, and so you get to go, Justin.
Yes. Oh, man, that's a long meeting. Crazy. A lot of stuff going on.
Compared to the last one.
Yeah, but yeah, it's no real updates. Just want to thank staff for putting everything together, the budget, and just updating us on everything. And Chief, National Night Out is coming. Yep. Mayor's message meeting. That would be good. Farmers market and yeah. Thanks for everybody and your dialogue. I think it's been great. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank staff, especially for the successful open house that we hosted. It was beautiful to see all of our employees, our officers out. It's always a treat to get to see art out in the town. It was great of Prince William County's departments to come by. The fire truck and trash services from American were huge, huge hits. And I'm just really excited that council agreed to support this as a yearly town function, as opposed to something being sponsored by or championed by someone on council. So I think this is just going to continue to grow. Thank you, everyone who participated as read aloud readers. It was a phenomenal day. I went home on cloud nine. It was a great time. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I did want to say my next meeting in regards to any programs will be on July 17th. That is a Thursday at 9:30 a.m. It will be here at Town Hall. So if you would like to come and hear the process, have some input, please join us. I will certainly be taking notes and share those out with my next thing. And I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July and that you guys enjoy the rest of this month.
Thank you. Joe, your turn.
Oh, I'm up? Okay. Hey, can we call the chief up here just to come up to the dais?
Sure.
Chief, can you just come up to the dais for a second? In appreciation, oh no, it's not a slap on the wrist. In appreciation for your trip to Disney World, I heard you got a really good report.
I did.
You really did. And so we got Dave Capicillo to put together a little something to recognize your trip to Disney World. We just want to make sure everybody gets a chance. So this is for you, and we.
That's really good. I should have kept the ears, right?
Yeah, you should have kept the ears. But Dave and others were able to work that out and a shrine to your trip to Disney World. Thank you,
I'm
Chief.
gonna hang it up in a place of honor.
Okay.
My office.
Oh, in your office. Okay, super.
I love it.
Thanks, Chief. Very quickly, another feel-good kind of a thing. Today is a special day. It's July 7th. There's a lot going on July 7th. But for all of you Beatle fans, this is Ringo Starr's 85th birthday. Can you believe that? 85. And today is a special day. He also calls for peace and love. Everybody at the same time, a little peace and love. So love Ringo. It's interesting that I noticed in the paper the other day that Lidl opened in Bethesda. And so that got me wondering, what's happening in town? What's happening with Lidl? So you don't have to answer it now, but I'm just curious minds want to know. Okay. And I don't know if anybody else is having any problems, but we've got them really bad. The spotted lantern flies, they are everywhere. And so, I mean, you could mix soap and water and maybe some vinegar and spray them, but that's not going to do your plants any good. So my recommendation is unfortunately just to squash them and get them before they get too big, because then they start to lay eggs in the fall, and then you got an even bigger problem. It's just going to snowball. So there's plenty of information on the DEQ website for that. So if anybody's having problems, look into that. And then last thing is today is actually it was Saturday, Research Appreciation Day, 2025. Very important. It has everything to do from medicine to social sciences to technology and what have you. But I can honestly say, and I think others on this panel can say, that if it wasn't for the research, they wouldn't be here today. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ken.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hope everybody had a good Fourth. I'd like to thank Chief and staff for all they do. I think you have been doing a lot. You got a good load with all these RFPs coming up, and I anticipate great things. But the primary comment that I want to make today is Chocolate Appreciation
Yes, it
Day.
is.
If you
Yes, it
haven't
is.
eaten any chocolate yet today, please imbibe.
I had mine with lunch.
No, I didn't. I was thinking of it though. I was.
A couple of Hershey's Kisses or something.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, Vice Mayor.
Sure. So first of all, I just want to recognize and have all of us kind of really give our thoughts for the tragedy that's occurred in Texas recently. It certainly has, when I look at that and I read about it and I see the impacts that it has on all those families, and frankly, a lot of them are small towns like us. You're talking about a community that's impacted, and it makes me think of our community. And to that end, I want to certainly recognize all of our first responders. And we did talk about our police earlier, and we talked about the great work that they're doing. Yeah, but one of the things I truly appreciate is there's never a time when I go to a business in town where I don't see them at least drive by and wave, or I don't see them out talking with somebody, a resident, a visitor, a business owner, or an employee. And I really want to recognize that it's, that importance of community policing. They really are the eyes and ears. And I thank you, Chief, for, kind of leading that, that type of department, and those members, and what I know that they are very passionate about getting to know the community. And at times like this, when I think about what happened in Texas, that really means a lot to me. And then the other part I thought of was just, we never know what weather's going to bring. And it got me thinking about, there's always the joke in Virginia, Northern Virginia, you could see 4 seasons in a week sometimes. And when I'm driving through town, the other person I see all the time is our maintenance guy, Matt. And he's out there sometimes with his hat trying to cool down, and he's up on ladders watering plants, and he's dragging ladders around. And he's the other one. I think every time I drive through town, I always see the green truck somewhere. He's out there in rain. It's like the old postal service thing, rain, sleet, snow, heat, wind. He is out there supporting our town, and I really want to just recognize what he does as well. We're extremely fortunate to have a community such as ours, and I know that from talking with our residents and our businesses that everybody is greatly appreciated. So thank you for everybody for what you do there.
Thank you. I am very proud of this town and of staff and of the people that I get to sit with a couple times a month. So I'm very much looking forward to National Night Out on the 5th. I'm already getting my outfit ready for summer concert, so be ready. That's the 16th. Looking forward to Farmers Market, August 3rd. I will be at the town tent, so please come by. Let's do a walkabout and have a good conversation. Earlier, I was referencing, I think the Flags for Heroes is actually going to be September 20th this year. So I'm looking forward to that. I had so much fun at the government open house event. Reading to the kids and talking with people within our community is wonderful. And if you haven't seen it, we need to get some colored pages from the coloring book that was created, because it's priceless. I love it. I love it. So with that being said, I hope everybody had a happy 4th of July holiday. And that's it. I look forward to seeing you all out and about in the community.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I've got a motion to adjourn and a second discussion. No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
You can stay.